Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host, Donny, and as always, I'm joined by my club co-host, Ducey.
Hello everyone.
Ducey, how are you this incredible Saturday afternoon?
It is a great weather day. We actually get to have the doors and windows open here.
I know, it's nice. It's not a hellacious storm that's been hammering on us for the last couple weeks.
Off and on, you just never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's really dumb when, I say dumb as if there's any logic to it, but it's like, I look outside and then it's pouring rain, and then within 3 or 4 minutes, it's sunning and, shining
That
and everything.
actually happened the other day. I was leaving work, and I was maybe from here to that house over there from my car, and it just a downpour.
Yeah.
And by the time I got home, it had stopped, and nothing for the rest of the week.
Yeah. Good excuses to get to stay in and play games, though. Which,
exactly.
We do what we can with that. For today's episode, for all of our listeners out there, hopefully having a fantastical Saturday or, whatever day you're listening to this. Probably some sort of Thursday, hopefully Friday. I don't know.
Yeah, right on release.
Yeah. We're doing another fun episode today, as always. Today we're comparing, and sort of, not necessarily comparing, but we're diving into the original Metroid for Nintendo and then its remake, Metroid Zero Mission. We're kind of setting up another series here that Ducey came up with where we're going to... the end game here is that we're culminating to a nice deep dive of Super Metroid, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary in April.
I can't wait for that one, but I also love these.
Exactly, right? So it's I love Super Metroid. It's definitely one of my top Super Nintendo games. We're going to have Vito on, which will be really fun because he's been also dying to talk about that. So we kind of wanted to lead up to that, going through some of the previous games. In this case, we'll be going through Metroid and Zero Mission, and then we're going to be going through Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, and then also Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS, which will be interesting because that is going to be probably the newest game we'll arguably cover, I think, that we're diving into, I should say, because that was a 2017 release.
That's true, actually, yeah. Other than, our best of episode. Where
that's true, yeah. Other than
but we're diving into this one.
The top games of 2023. Yeah, there's another episode you can listen to our archive back there. But that's right. That's probably the only recent game we kind of dive into for the most part. Before we get into Metroid and everything, Metroidvania, Ducey, what have you been diving into lately?
Well, so this is actually the section where we talk about the recent games.
That's true, yeah.
And instead, I've played old games. I got back into Star Trek Online, which is from, surprisingly, 2010.
Yeah, I installed the PC version. I was pretty shocked that it was... I mean, it makes sense that it was that old. I just didn't connect. It didn't, the realization didn't hit me that it was a 13, 14-year-old game at this point.
And I didn't play it until it came to consoles on... when it came to Xbox, I think my oldest saved state or whatever it tells you is like your earliest mission was in 2016. That was when I first started playing
8 years ago, man.
Yeah. And then off and on, I played it. I played it again in, I guess, 2018, and then set it down until just recently. I've just been on this big deep dive of Star Trek again, where I've been watching Star Trek Picard on Paramount, and I've been listening to this podcast where these guys who aren't really familiar with the show just go into every episode of Next Generation.
Yeah, they're kind of blind, which is a pretty cool idea.
And it's hilarious because they summarize it in layman's terms. And so it's okay for people who are in the know about the show. You don't really get upset with them. It's fun to see a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
And then all that led to, going back to Star Trek Online, which is just a fun dive into the history of the entire universe. Like, I started my character in the original series era, you might say, and it revisits episodes from the original show, and you're sort of like continuing the stories of those episodes. Like, what happened afterwards? Well, this is what happened. You're on this other ship, and you're going back to that stuff. And then it sort of like kicks you in the butt, and you end up in their present time in their universe. And then you play from there, the original online game. Yeah,
like their sort of pre-crafted story that... Because I think when I played it, I think it was on PS4. I played like a little bit. It was really like a few hours. I don't know if they had different branching stories that you could start from, because each sort of, I guess, race or whatever has a different origin and sort of start story. And then eventually it sort of jives into the main story, which is still pretty cool. I just thought, like, when you told me like they had new characters and whatnot, like I thought they had their own sort of story arcs.
Me too.
Right, and would be kind of cool, but also is arguably more cool that they kind of start out with their own story arcs, and then eventually it does get folded into the main story of the whole MMO.
And they make it make sense because, as usual, you can do that with time travel.
Yeah, exactly.
The universal excuse.
Yes. Not quite. This was made before the multiverse was a big thing, I guess. So
yeah,
they didn't abuse that one too much.
I've been playing a little more Mario versus Donkey Kong. I think I'm about in World 6 in that, which I didn't even realize there were that many worlds. And
I think that's the end because I'm still in World 3. I haven't gotten back to it. I think there's like 6 worlds total.
Oh man,
yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it's terribly long.
And then what else? Oh, I got back into Forza a little bit.
Oh, that's right because you played that the new course, right? That was Nuremberg.
Yeah, Nürburgring.
Nürburgring, yeah.
Which is a beast. I only had to do 2 laps and it took me forever.
I'm sure because it's a 22-mile track, 23?
Something around that, yeah.
So 2 laps would be like, basically a 45-minute drive, more or less, in real time.
And I had so many rewinds that it stopped doing the little rewind motion, and it was just like, here, blink out.
You broke Forza.
Blink back in.
Yeah. I've been playing, just like I said on the last episode leading up to this, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PS5.
Nice.
And it is more incredible than I would have expected, to be brutally honest. Like, I'd seen the reviews leading up to it, but I didn't fully connect that it's essentially a, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn game, but mixed with RPGs and Final Fantasy VII, and it's amazing.
What's the combat like? It's still like the first remake one?
It's like the first remake, so it's I would say it's pretty action oriented, and then you do pause the combat a lot. Like you have to switch your characters a lot because when you're building up your active time bars, you can use your abilities, which fill up your ability meter, and it encourages you to switch characters and fill your ability meter because now there's synergy abilities that are sort of like team up moves with different combos, which is very Chrono Trigger like. It's actually really awesome.
Or the recent Mario RPG.
Or Mario RPG, yeah. So there's that aspect to it. So the combat it's much more action oriented. I know there's a toggle where you can make it classic where I think it pauses everything with different commands.
Oh, nice.
But it's not pure turn-based like the original was. That's Square has very clearly put that away, aside from Octopath, which I think they published. I can't recall, but
I did hear about that recently. They've taken it off stores because they have to change the production or the producer.
It's something like that, yeah. And then they're still like they did the Star Ocean remake, so they're still doing turn-based games. It's just Final Fantasy is not hasn't been turn-based in a while, like we mentioned in the whatever episode it was where I was talking about that. But it feels amazing. Like I've been more occupied with these side activities, because also like the main story has its own arc. But I beat a few bosses that I probably shouldn't have beaten. I was probably underleveled because they were really difficult. So I just started to do more side stuff because all the side stuff's really fun. There's like this Queen's Blood card game. It reminds you a lot of Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, where it's easy to learn, but pretty hard to master because it's all about your placements and your cards, and you beat other people to get more cards for your deck. There's a ton of mini games. There's like they've fleshed out, like they've really have finally culminated. The old Super Nintendo, like those are the PS1 era RPGs where you have like this massive open world and you're just seamlessly exploring everything. They finally nailed that in 2024 on the PS5 with this game. It feels really, really good. So I've been dedicating a lot of time with that. Granted, I haven't gotten too far in the main story. Like I think I'm like 15 or 16 hours in, and game's apparently like 70 to 80 hours or something.
Oh god!
So it got that part right from like the old games,
And is it even the final part of the game, or is there going to be a third one?
No, I believe there's going to be a third one. I'm sure it ends in a trilogy. But I love what I've been playing so far. Like it's like I said, it's Ghost of Tsushima with Final Fantasy, and that's perfect for me. Like I'm just mashing triangle, getting my resources because you can craft items now and craft equipment.
Do they still have materia?
Yeah, the materia you can swap materia. I mean, they've just blown the game out from like the remake. Like their FF7 remake was its own thing and it was great, but it really does feel just so much smaller in scale compared to Rebirth, and I'm loving every minute of it. And then I also been playing more Helldivers 2 because our friend Vito got it now because one of my friends are picking it up.
Yeah,
and he's been like really into it. So we've been playing like a few rounds like every other night pretty much, especially now because they launched this expedition of sorts where the bots, the automatons as they call them. I call them the Terminators because that's basically what they are. They've invaded a planet, and basically the game master or Super Earth has told players and divers, go liberate it because they're attacking our mech production facility. And then like within like 12 hours, the entire player base liberated this planet because they wanted to unlock mechs. So now you can unlock pilotable mechs where you're roaming around with like a chain gun and a rocket launcher that you can call in. And it's really cool. I haven't unlocked it yet in 25, but they have like an experimental phase where you basically can play it for like the weekend, I guess, or they want you to try it out, and it's pretty amazing. So we've been diving into that. We did a round on hard, which we survived. Like
that's the baseline, you could say.
Yeah, it's really rough.
Well, we survived.
Exactly. And then there's like another 5. Like I mentioned on the other episode, we were talking about this. Like there's another 5 difficulties beyond that, and I don't know how
or why,
how you would even beat that. Like we had a hell of a time with 2 of us on hard, and even then, I played with some of our other friends last week, and we did 4-player on hard, and it was still really hard. So I know they're tweaking and balancing the game, but it's like I have to check out videos on how people are doing like 7, 8, and 9 because it's chaos on 4.
Yeah, I understand balancing out. That's great. Like applause to them for trying to balance. But at the same time, then you're kind of like negating what you already made with the lower levels.
Yeah, and well, what's hard too is that in order to get ship upgrades, is you have to get the rarer crafting materials, and some of those are only available on like the rare ones are available on like I think level 4 through 6, and then 7, 8, and 9 you can get the super rare materials. But you have to dive quite often because the upgrades aren't cheap. So it's like you have to play on those at some point to get all of the upgrades if you want to have a more efficient combat time.
Do you still earn something for going in on those hard modes but dying pretty quick?
Yeah, so actually last night Vio and I played, and we successfully completed the objective. I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was like destroy this or that, or whether the main objective was. And we ran out of lives right before we were able to extract.
Yeah.
So the idea is like, when you're respawn, it's not like you're a person respawning. They're sending reinforcements. There's more soldiers coming down to clean up. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like you technically complete the objective and you died on your mission. So they give you credit for finishing the objective and whatnot. But
we thank you for your service, soldier.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah. So it's like you may not get, the crafting materials or anything else or credit for much else, but you do get credit, which is important for getting war medals to unlock stuff if you do complete the objective and die.
I'm just thinking it's like baby steps to the super ship, baby steps to the super missile.
There's no baby steps in this game whatsoever. Like if you're taking baby steps, you're already dead.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. Hopefully you'll get that soon, because I know we're definitely gonna end up playing co-op on that, because it's a really great time. There's a bunch of non-sets, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like those 30-40 minute missions are just the right amount. Like you could dive in and play a mission, maybe you could play 5. But it's been really fun. I think you'll get a good kick out of it.
Not to bring it back to Star Trek terms, but I feel like I'm going to be Ensign Ricky out there in a red shirt.
We all are. We all are. And it's like when you have 10 lives, 15 lives between 3 people, like there's a lot of Ensign Ricky.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So with that, I guess we could jump into our main event here, Deucey. We are here. Today we are comparing and sort of talking through 2 games that are, I'd say, pretty important to our gaming histories. We're comparing Metroid, which was originally released in August 1987, which is pretty crazy that it's a 37-year-old game at this point. 38 in Japan. I think it came in 86. And then it's Remake, which came out 20 years ago around this time. It was released in February 2004 on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, when I saw you put that information down, I was like kind of blown away that it was 2004. I remember it, for some reason I remember it being a little older maybe, but then I realized, no, that's Metroid Fusion also.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why like that 2000 to like 2005 era of games, especially on Game Boy Advance, feels like they came out before, or they're older, but they're not. Like I was surprised. I looked, I was like, wow, 2004. It doesn't feel like 20 years ago, but it obviously had to be.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But Metroid, we'll start with Metroid on the Nintendo first, which, Ducey, did you have this as a kid? Did you, like, how did you sort of get introduced to Metroid on the NES?
So you say it's important to our gaming histories, and I say that's an understatement because this is the genesis of it all for me. Like, this is my earliest memory of a video game. It wasn't mine, though, at first. It was my cousin's, and they lived down in San Diego, so I didn't see them a lot, but I just remember vaguely one Christmas they came up, and I had to have been 4 or 5, because it was kind of like, I feel like it was what led my parents to getting a Nintendo for us. They saw how I was playing the games and how I was just like immediately zoned in on them.
Yeah, he's focused.
Yeah. So they ended up getting the Nintendo after that. But this, I also did not realize this was one of my earliest memories, or this was the game, until I played Super Metroid. And when in Super Metroid you go into the blue room with the morph ball and you turn into the ball for the first time, it just unlocked a flood of memories. And I was like, wait, I remember this on Nintendo.
Yeah, this looks familiar for some reason.
The character could turn into a ball. I had no idea it was called Metroid.
Yeah. I didn't get to play this until much later when I think it was, I don't know, I must have been like a teenager when I first played it. And by then, of course, I had played Super Metroid, which, I didn't beat for a long time either. I would get stuck pretty quickly, pretty often. And then I don't know if I had beaten it or if I played this after Metroid Prime. But I don't know. When I played it, I did enjoy it. But one thing that sticks out, which we'll talk about, is how freaking hard of a game this is.
Oh, yes.
And it makes, it makes sense thematically. It's just, I think later on, with it being like a 37-year-old game, it's a little bit harder to get into nowadays, but it's still a heavily influential game. Like, there's no way to discount what this game has done for gaming in general, and then obviously what its sequels have done for gaming, especially. I mean, spawning an entire genre is no easy feat.
With its name in it.
With its name in it, yeah. I mean, it's like, there was Metroid, and then eventually became Metroidvania, which, I mean, it's a pretty crazy portmanteau of two genres, right?
Yeah. I'm glad I started. I mean, I really got into Super Metroid first because this one was fine for my little 4-year-old, 5-year-old self, just playing, shooting the aliens, and then turning it off. But if I had actually attempted to get through this game when I was younger, I might have ended up hating all Metroids.
I think so. I could totally see that happening. Like, when I revisited this last week, I was like, yeah, I could see why people may not get into it or maybe turned off by this. And that's why it's important that Zero Mission exists.
Yes.
But the origins of Metroid were rooted in Nintendo R&D 1. It's this Nintendo Research and Development 1. This is a company that, it's not a company, but it's sort of an arm of Nintendo that was ran by Gunpei Yokoi. And he was the person who designed and worked on the Ultra Hand, which is this popular toy that I think has, the internet has seen more recently, like over the last few years. But it's like, it's got like scissor hands, and it's got like this these crosshatch arms, and it has hands at the end, and it, you could pull the levers and it grabs stuff.
Yep.
Really silly gimmick, but it was popular enough that it sold 1.2 million units in Japan. So that's what kind of led to Nintendo creating Nintendo Research and Development, or it would be later known as Nintendo R&D 1, which is a really important development company for Nintendo.
Isn't it kind of like the flagship, because they have other numbers after this?
They do. There's like, I think there is an R&D 2, and then they have like, different departments of Nintendo all have some sort of importance in the Nintendo ethos.
Recently, I just saw what R&D 4 developed, like Zelda on Game Boy, I think it was.
It's stuff, yeah, exactly.
3 or 4.
Yeah, so it's like each of those development companies or teams handles, like, they might have them do portables, or it depends also on like the priority the project, I would assume too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if it's a huge game, they're probably going to have like their best, probably R&D 1.
R&D 1 was doing Super Nintendo while the others were doing like Game Boy.
Yeah, exactly, right? So Nintendo was obviously very successful at this point, so they were steadfast on having different teams work on different projects. And Gunpei Yokoi, he's a huge piece of Nintendo. He started way back in 1965. He started by maintaining the assembly line machines that produce their Hanafuda cards, which are just Japanese playing cards, like the smaller form ones. And he created the Game & Watch handhelds. He invented the cross-pad shaped D-pad, which, I mean, for God's sake, like
that's in every video game system ever.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a huge thing to design and invent. And then he would, of course, design the Game Boy and the Virtual Boy, and he retired shortly after the Virtual Boy, which, I do remember reading about this where people speculated that it was because of this failure of the Virtual Boy. But Nintendo also said, like, no, it's just happens to be coincidental, unfortunately. Like, it just happened to be that.
Well, he's been around since 65.
At least.
Yeah.
Right? So 30 years at a company, like, it makes sense that he probably retired. And unfortunately, he passed away in 97 from a car accident. It's just really awful. Like, he ended up in, like, a fender bender. And while I was out inspecting it, he got hit by a car, which is awful. So, some people like to joke that his legacy ended on Virtual Boy. It's like, that's pretty unfair to do that. Because also, it's like, the Virtual Boy is garbage, but it's also trying to step forward with innovations that they were trying to get ahead with 3D and everything
it really
else.
did lead to so much more in Nintendo. Like, look at the 3DS after all those years, and even games that involved a forward and a backwards type of screen motion.
Yeah, and that's rooted again in Nintendo's design philosophy too. Like, they're thinking, and it started with Satoru Iwata, who's another big piece of Nintendo, but they all have this collective philosophy of lateral development, which means that they're not really, and you can see with pretty much all the Nintendo systems, especially from Super Nintendo on, where they're not totally interested in doing what's new and like what's technologically advanced right away, right? Like, that's why we have PS5 and Xbox. Their thing is, we'll take the existing technology and then see how we could use that to innovate and expand on that, which makes sense. Like, you have the 3DS, you have the DS, you have a Game Boy Advance, which is a portable Super Nintendo, which, that was up against the PSP in 2003, which was, 3D. It was like a mini PS2, essentially PS1.
Yeah.
So Nintendo, they've always stayed in their lane of sorts, but they're also insanely successful for it. Like, every system they have really has been a top seller. Like, the Switch is one of the top selling systems ever.
The Wii, innovated motion controls, and other systems tried to copy, and then they just never could keep up.
Yeah, so it's the philosophy differences between the companies like Nintendo, Sega, and Microsoft. You could see it's pretty plain as day. But Nintendo has always been ruined in this sense where it's like, we could take the technology that does exist and then blow that out beyond anyone's expectations because it's developed. It's it's feature rich. We could do anything we want with this at this point. So that's kind of what led to Gunpei Yokoi, leading all these innovations. Like, he had the free reign to, the Game Boy, for God's sake, is like one of the top selling portable platforms ever. I don't know. I think the DS has eclipsed it, but the Game Boy was the king of portable consoles back then. He had a big hand in designing that.
It's kind of the reason we have handheld systems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with Metroid, this was rooted in Alien, which was a 1979 Ridley Scott movie, which is a classic, and you could tell the influences.
That makes sense.
Pretty apparent. Yeah, it's just there's you're in a lone alien world. Everything can kill you pretty quickly. You have a sense of sort of isolation. Everything's just everything. There's an atmosphere there that is really thick, and you're cautious about where you're going because you don't know what's through that next door. And that's what inspired Metroid. And then, ironically, the name was, it's a portmanteau, I learned. It's Metro and Android. I'm not sure the Metro part, how that factors in.
It's hilarious because it makes me think of, like, once again, Star Trek, Data in New York.
Yeah, exactly. It all connects.
Yeah.
It all connects. So this game was like I said, it was heavily inspired by Alien and, of course, H.R. Geiger's art, which it's apparent. Like, you could see that the areas in Metroid, they kind of have this living organism feel. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty fair to come across like any of the areas. Like, it just seems like you're in something that's living, like a living planet, but it's not like in later games like Metroid Dread we talked about. It kind of has more of like a mechanized look because it's it's on a different base and facility.
It's kind of a good mashup in that one because you still have some planet areas and then it's a lot more mechanized.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, that only happens right in the last area, I would say. Because that's where the space pirates are like working out of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing too, is this game does a lot with having to explicitly tell you things because it doesn't really have any cutscenes. There's not any text crawl. Like, you're really just thrown into this,
I think there's only text at the end.
Yeah, for the endings, I think.
Everything you have to get out of the instruction booklet. The good old days of the instruction booklet.
Yeah, all your lore was in there, which the instruction booklet referred to Samus as a he.
Yeah.
As we'll get into, that's a pretty big twist. Yeah, they kind of changed things there. I mean, that's another huge moment in gaming, too. So with this game, they wanted to make it, again, like, it was hugely inspired by Alien. They want to make it like you're living in a living organism. And the other sort of twist on this game is that you don't progress necessarily from A to B.
No.
You're collecting abilities. You kind of have to explore. You're doing a lot of backtracking in this one. which means you're going through the same hellscapes of enemies.
The problem is in this one, because they did a really unique thing of reusing a lot of the tiles,
the rooms and tiles.
The rooms, yeah. You don't know you're backtracking because a lot of it all looks the same.
Exactly, which I think actually adds to the tension of it, because it almost makes you makes you think that you're getting lost and you're lost.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, did I go through this room? I don't know. Like, how many screens up did I go to? Up.
Yeah.
Did I go down? Like, oh crap, I've been here before 6 times. How did I end up here again?
They really want you to draw your own map.
Exactly. Yeah. Which this one, I didn't do that as a kid, but this is a perfect candidate if you're, older at that time, to get your graph paper out and just start mapping out everything. Like, it's the perfect candidate for, like, every room is built like it was on graph paper. So with that, the story here, it's actually a pretty cool story. This takes place in 20x5, which I haven't seen before. Usually just like 25, 2005x, 2000xx, something weird. 2000x5. So sometime in 2000, I don't know,
on
95.
A multiple of 5.
Yeah, on a multiple of 5. Space pirates attack a Galactic Federation research vessel, and they take these Metroid samples. So these Metroids they're a parasitic life form that is found on a planet called SR388. And these space pirates plan to expose the Metroids to beta rays so they can basically create bioweapons. And the Federation attacks the base, attacks the space pirates base because they transport them to planet Zebes, as I call it. I think there's a lot of ambiguity on if it's Zebes or Zebes, right?
I think when I was younger, I called it Zebes.
That's what I did too.
And yeah, since then there have been like audio files of things, and they'll say Zebes,
right?
Which was like, that was weird. Not the first thought on my mind there.
But I also was the one who would say, Hylian instead of or Hylian instead of Hylian. Because I would say Hyrule. I didn't think like Hyrule, So that I just kind of confused myself with that. But Zebes and Zebes was the same kind of instance as that. So the Federation attacks the space pirates base, but they're forced to retreat, and then their last resort is to send a lone bounty hunter to destroy Mother Brain and, by proxy, the pirates' base. So you play as Samus, who we later find out is actually a woman. It's a pretty big twist. Mm-hmm. There's a very specific code that's almost as famous, I would say, as the Contra code, where you enter Justin Bailey, and it's Samus in her swimsuit. Right?
Yeah.
But in this game, we mentioned, the instruction manual referred to her as a he. And you didn't discover that Samus was a woman until literally the end of the game, when she takes off her suits. And it depends on when you beat the game too.
I was going to say, you might not ever discover that she's a woman, because if you take way too long, she's just on the planet's surface in her metal suit, and she waves to you. But if you do it in a certain amount of time, then the suit comes off. Yeah,
and this game, it's one of the first where it has multiple endings. I think there's at least 5, maybe 6. And it all depends on how quickly you can beat the game, which is pretty cool, because that I don't remember any game back then that would have done that, especially by 87. There's no way.
Mm-mm.
It had to be like one of the earliest examples of that, especially on the NES.
Not even like Zelda or anything like that. That would be kind of a longer game.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting to do, because I don't think of primitive games like that where they could set like a time completion rate, and it's like you'll get a certain bonus or a certain ending depending on how quickly or how slowly you beat it. You know? So Samus fights 2 big bosses that are persistent through basically all the games, Kraid and Ridley, and then eventually she destroys the Metroids and the Mother Brain, and then in another sort of Metroid trope, you arm the base, and it has like a self-destruct sequence, and then you're out to escape. Mm-hmm. So Deucey, this game, I don't remember any sequence like that in gaming where you were sort of like you're already being scared that you're going through this maze, like a labyrinth. And then the game's like, in the last few minutes, like, hey, just escape. Now go backtrack through everything you just went through and escape before you all explode and do it all over again. To kind of frame the reviews, I like to go into like some of the context of some of the releases around this time. 1987 is kind of weird. Like, I couldn't find anything specific around when Metroid released. Like, it was kind of muddy. So I'm just kind of giving like a broad view of 1987.
Oh, yeah.
There's quite a few games that came out in 87. There was a Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, that came out in Japan. And then the US release was 2 years later.
Wow.
Can you imagine getting a game now where, it's like a major Zelda game, and then we get it like 2 years later, 3 years later, like it was back then?
Well, yes. Same thing happened with Mario. We got Mario 2 the same year they got Mario 3.
Exactly. We got Mario 3 like another 2 or 3 years later. It's crazy how things were back then. But we didn't know. That's just, we got games and we just figured they were worldwide.
You really can't do that now, because reviews are so instantaneous on the internet that like, if you released, say, Starfield in Japan only, and it got completely trashed, then it wouldn't even matter when you release it in the US.
It's like, oh, we know it's not great. Yeah. Other games in '87, there was Castlevania. That was the first game in the series. Kid Icarus. The Legend of Zelda, the first game, that actually arrived to us in Europe and US in 1987. Yeah. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, another NES classic. Phantasy Star, which is a huge Genesis series. Sid Meier's Pirates.
Wait.
I couldn't believe that.
Phantasy Star on the Genesis came out in 87?
Yeah.
I thought the Genesis was out in like 88 or 89.
In Japan.
Oh, in Japan.
It's a really early system there.
Jesus.
And even in US, it came out in 89.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, again, like it's weird to think the Genesis is that old, because by the time we were playing it, Super Nintendo was out. We thought it was like, at least I thought it was like 1990, 1991, like around the
like a
Super Nintendo.
direct competitor to the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, but it turns out like Genesis was, no, it's basically like an entire generation older at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, Phantasy Star, Sid Meier's Pirates, which is the first game to feature Sid Meier's name. PC Engine TurboGrafx 16 was released in Japan, like the system.
Wow.
Yeah, that's also another old system. Contra, the arcade version, and then Metal Gear, which had the MSX, or excuse me, it was released in the MSX2 in Japan, and then we got our version
way later.
Yeah, our American version that was not nearly as good as the MSX version. So reviews at the time, we usually like to cover Nintendo Power, EGM, and GamePro. Those are kind of like the three big ones we cover. Well, in '87, none of those magazines existed.
Yeah.
It's a little too early. Nintendo Power didn't start till 1988. EGM started in 1989, and then GamePro was also '89. So this was pre-gaming magazines, which is a weird thing to think.
It's interesting. Maybe you could have looked up, because there is an issue that has all the maps of it, because that's what I used to finally get through the game back in the day. Maybe they might have thrown in a review then. Or...
They do retrospectives.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo Power does that, right? Especially like, I don't know if they did it on Metroid 2, Super Metroid, but I'm sure they released like maps, like if anyone did still have a Nintendo, right? So like you can't,
I wonder
we need
if
a strategy guide for this, because you need one for Metroid.
I wonder if it came out, man, I really wish I could remember the issue, but I wonder if it came out when they kind of re-released the game on the cartridge, because like you said, here in '87 it came out with Castlevania, Kid Icarus, and those are all the silver box editions. That was like the second wave of Nintendo releases.
Yeah.
And then years later, this is the one I got, where it's just this bright yellow box, and the Samus that you know from Super Nintendo is on the cover, even though that's not what she looked like in the original game.
Yeah, I think the art looks like it's from Metroid 2, right? Because that's when
Yeah.
they, we'll get to that in that episode, but that's when they have the rounded shoulders she has. But I think that's the second version of the NES box. Really reminds me of Metroid 2, which I don't know if it took it from there or...
I think it might have even come out around the same time that...
It might have, because Super Metroid would have been pretty late for that to come out, I think. But I don't know, I'd have to look that up. But I do like that box art a lot. Like, the gray, the silver Metroid one is really cool looking, but that, the crouching Samus it's pretty badass looking.
Surprisingly, I think the yellow one that I have is worth a little more than the old silver box.
I think it's I think a box one might be. I didn't get to check that price actually. So magazine reviews, there weren't a whole lot. Like there was a couple magazines that I did find. Like there's Famitsu, which is a famous Japanese gaming magazine. They give it 5 out of 5. This is before they were doing scales of 40, because I think they have individual reviewers, like on a scale of 10 each. So this was way back when they had a 5-star scale. And they got 5 out of 5 from Metroid. And a magazine called Computer Video Games thought it was a tough adventure with a very handy password system, and recommended it to avid adventure players. So pretty generalized reviews. It was well received, but gaming wasn't what it was 3 or 4 years later, and magazines were just telling everyone about these games.
Was this one of the first games with a password system? Because you definitely needed it.
I would say it's one of the earlier ones, because also the Famicom version, the Famicom disc system version, that one does have a battery, or you can save to the disc.
Man, that is so much easier.
Yeah, so you could save to the disc on there, but by the time we got here in '87, we didn't have the disc system at all, and batteries cost money, and also they might have to rewrite something to accommodate battery saves too.
I wonder how it saved, because there were no save rooms like in Super Metroid.
I don't know.
Or even in Metroid 2, there was little save stations.
Unless it was save anywhere, because maybe that was possible with the disc system too. Like you just save anywhere or something.
That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, it's almost like save states or something.
Yeah.
But we weren't that lucky. We got I think it was a 16-digit password, which it sucks. But I mean, it's better than starting from nothing.
Justin is how many letters? 6? So it had to have been, oh my God.
It was pretty long. It had to be at least 16 characters, I think.
No.
Maybe longer.
It was 24.
Oh, so that's infinitely worse.
That's ridiculous.
That's a Beavis and Butthead Sega Genesis password.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I guess we could dive into this. Ducey, I think you probably have more experience with this. Like, I think I've gotten near the end. I got to like Kraid before, but this game is really freaking hard.
I think I'm trying to remember, but this might be one. Well, I think you can kind of take the bosses in any order.
You can,
just as long as you have the right amount of missiles and life.
Yeah, because here you don't have a whole lot of abilities. Like, you have the morph ball, you have your missile tank, so you can upgrade to 255, and then there's the long beam. You can get your energy tanks, which I think you get 5 or 6 in this game. 6.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's a total of 8 hidden, which I didn't realize. I guess you could find
redundancy
other ones.
in case.
And there's also 2 ice beams, which I didn't know.
Yeah. Because in this one they don't stack the weapons.
Yes.
So you might find the ice beam early, and then you go along and get the wave beam or whatever else. But you definitely need the ice beam at the end, and you might not you might have already gotten rid of it. The items don't come back where they originally were. So you definitely need to find that second one.
So that adds another layer of difficulty on that on its own, because
just don't find them back to back.
Yeah, exactly. And then other sort of Metroid mainstays were still in here. There's the high jump boots, the screw attack, wave beam, and the various suit. So this one, like, did you beat this as a kid, Ducey? Because oh my God, like, it's pretty brutal even as an adult for me now.
No, I vaguely remember. I think I was over at my aunt's house, and my parents must have been out doing something, so she was watching me. But I was just tucked away in the back room, and I had my Nintendo Power with me, like I said, and I just went at it and followed the map religiously. Luckily, in that Nintendo Power, it was pretty early, so they gave you the entire map of the world.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you're almost near the end, now go for it. It's like,
well,
no, we're going to hold your hand.
And this map isn't, I mean, it feels really big, but it's not that big. Like,
it's
there's
just
only
repetitive.
It's just really repetitive. Like I said, it does feel like a labyrinth, and there's, I think, a total of like 117 rooms, somewhere around there. So,
and
it feels a lot bigger than that, though.
The problem that they made, though, was that there's a lot of hidden places, which in the Super Metroid, that's fine. It gets you like an extra missile or something. In this one, some of the hidden spots are required to progress, and you aren't gonna know that unless you like sit there and bomb every square tile. Luckily, like I said, the book helps you out and points directly. Here's where you have to go. Another kind of issue that I had with it was, like, if you die late in the game, in like maybe you're in Turian, the last world already, wherever you like restart, you have 30 health.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to point out, because even replaying that, I had forgotten about that, because most Metroid games, or most Metroidvania games in general, after this, were reasonable when you respawn. Like, you would usually go to like a save point, or you'd at least start with like most of your health or full health. 30 health in this game is nothing.
Yeah.
So you figure you have
like
energy
3
tanks.
hits.
Yeah, it's 3, if that.
Yeah.
Because each energy tank can give you 100, so realistically you could have 600 hit points of health. But
699, really.
699, yeah, that's right, because you count from 099, because with an empty, with
Yeah.
no e-tanks. But no matter what health you have, if you have 699, maxed out, and you die for whatever reason, because the spawn rates here are really low too. The health spawns are super low, and there's not that many points you could farm. Like, it's kind of annoying to farm more than anything else. But regardless, if you die anywhere in this game, you restart at your sort of recent checkpoint with 30 health, no matter what. And that includes the later parts of the game where it's like it's even more difficult. It's really, really hard just for that alone.
Yeah. I also, for some reason, remember maybe dying twice in the last world, because the Metroids are harder. In this one, you don't have all the directions to shoot. You have up and left and right.
Yes, you can't even shoot down, and you can't even crouch shoot.
Yeah. So the Metroids are really hard to avoid in here. And then I'm pretty sure I died twice in the last world and had to do that farming thing 2 more times to build it back up and take on Mother Brain at the end.
It does. And farming is a totally reasonable tactic to have in this game, because you absolutely need it. When you're that fragile,
Yeah.
you might spend 15 minutes just trying to farm enemies to get health. And it sucks because each health blip or pickup really only adds 5 to 10 at most. There's anything bigger than that. Like the later games would introduce the bigger health pickups where you could refill like a whole E-tank, basically.
There's even rooms where it's a recharge station. You plug in and
that as well.
It'll give you everything back.
Yeah, so this game is very primitive, but again, it's understandable because it's 1987. Like this is an insanely early game. Like the NES came out in 85, in the US.
This was definitely a pioneer game for them. Like you wouldn't think of doing this in any other game. Like Mario isn't going to be adventuring like this.
Yeah, and this really had not been done had not been done before, especially on the NES. So it's treading new water, and like I think they were pretty successful with what they wanted to do, which is create like this space adventure where anything can kill you at any point. Like you're on an alien planet. You can't step into the next room without fearing what might be in there.
Not only that, but you also can't think that you're safe leaving a room. This was back in the day when the enemies could hit you while you're screen transitioning.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is this is definitely the first game I remember having that kind of a screen transition where it pans across, like it's loading. That was definitely different because with, like you said with Mario, like it's from point A to point B most of the time. And it's seamless. Like you're going across each screen. Here it's like you might have a series of screens, like 3 to 4, and then you're going to like a door, and then it loads the next section.
Yep. And then
which looks almost exactly as the section you just passed.
And then suddenly you're in a vertical room instead of the horizontal. So you can't just there's no run button like in Mario. You can't just mash the run and go left to right.
Yeah, and you have one speed here, which is not fast.
No.
And additionally, what also sucks is some of the enemies are just too low to hit. Like you have to use your bombs if you're lucky, but good luck trying to do that quickly because it's not the fastest morph ball transformation. And then the end, I did try the end because the Switch Online version, there's a couple versions it has. There's like the game.
Oh yeah, those SP versions.
The SP edition, which is special edition versions, and one of them has you maxed out with like your missiles and your health tanks. And I forgot what else.
I think they give you the items like Various Suit and
you're powered up. You're basically sort of like in the last section, and it's still really hard. Even in the last section, getting Mother Brain. Like I didn't even get to Mother Brain. I only tried it like twice, and I was like, I don't want to farm right now. I'm good. But I know you've beaten Mother Brain, so I've seen the hell in there too because of the speed run because there's those little rings that are floating all around. Mm-hmm. You have to shatter her sort of what would you call it, like glass case thing?
Yeah,
like her
it's basically I think you've seen the end of Super Metroid, right? You've been to that.
I've beaten Super Metroid.
It's the exact same room where you have to blast those little like
turrets.
There's pillars of like her brain material in there. You blast through those, you go through the room, and then you find her at the end, and you have to knock a hole in the glass and then just start pumping her with missiles.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember how many it takes, but it is a lot more difficult than in the Super Nintendo version.
It definitely is. Like it's freaking brutal because there's things that are coming at you, they're floating at you. Even with the long beam, it's still pretty tough.
Yeah.
Even like the beam you start out with is like piddly.
Yeah.
It shoots like 2 tiles in front of you, maybe 3. So everything has to be pretty close to you before you can even begin to hit it, and you can only shoot 3 at a time. So long beam helps, but it's like there's just it's just a hellacious endurance run at this point.
Yeah, because the rings you mentioned come at you at weird angles, and once again, you only have left, right, and up to shoot.
Yeah,
you have to.
That's true.
Do a lot of dodging.
Yeah, and I hope that your jumping is on points of where you're trying to shoot.
Yeah.
Because what sucks is like if you fall down, it's not so easy to jump on a platform you're just on because you might also get hit by something else which will knock you off.
Yeah,
So overall, I would say like this game is definitely worth playing. Some of the things haven't aged well, but it's also one of those things where it's just you can't harp on it too much either. Like it's a 37-year-old game. It plays pretty well for what it is and how old it is. Mm-hmm. Right. I would definitely say if you can, like just play the Switch Online version. There's save states. Please use them. Like that's the best way to play it.
Unless every new room.
Yeah, exactly. And overall, like this game isn't terribly long in the grand scheme of things. I think it's a pretty long Nintendo game though. It's about 6 hours from what I saw on How Long to Beat. And if you want to get all the items, they say 6.5 hours, which I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe with a guide, it doesn't seem like you could wrap everything up in half an hour beyond the main story.
No.
Right? It doesn't make any sense. There's how many? There was. Let me see. There was 21 missile tanks. I don't know if I could find those in half an hour on top of everything else.
Not when you, like you said, the run speed is not a run. It's not even a jog.
Yeah, it's a mosey about kind of thing. So if you do want a loose cart for this, it's pretty inexpensive. This is for the gray version because I forgot to look up the yellow version, but they're probably around the same price, I would say. But complete is always going to be
only a couple bucks difference.
Yeah, it's not too big of a difference. So if you want a loose cart of Metroid, it's $24. If you want the boxed version, it's $170 or more, probably closer to 200 at this point. And then there's a 5-screw version if you care about that. That one's not that much more expensive. Complete's about $180. So 150 to 200, you can have a complete copy of Metroid, or just play the Switch Online version. For speedruns, this is definitely one of the more popular speedrun games or speedrun genres, speedrun series. I would say this is also one of the most fun ones to watch overall. I got a couple categories here, and there's going to be a couple people who are persistent through the series. They really love Metroid.
Yeah.
So for any percent on Metroid 1, there's a world record by CHX42. They have it in 9 minutes and 12 seconds. That's Skip City. I know that. I've seen that.
God, but how? Like, you must have to get the perfect amount of missiles that it's going to take and then never miss a shot.
Exactly. That's pretty much what it was, is they knew exactly what they were doing.
Wow.
They knew what pickups to get, and they made every shot count.
Yeah.
Because that is insanity. Like, it's a 6-hour game. They've condensed it into 9 minutes. Granted with skips, glitches, whatever. It doesn't matter. 9 minutes is insane.
Oh, there's definitely. Oh, I know. There's definitely glitches in this one.
There's a lot.
It's glitchier than Mega Man.
Yeah, like you could teleport across sections. There's a lot of out of bound glitches.
I think you don't even have to beat the 2 bosses to lower the drawbridge thing. You can skip that entire room a certain way.
It's a really cool speedrunner rush. And again, it's only like, it's under 10 minutes. It's a fun watch for 10 minutes. There's also any percent Deathless, also by CHX42. They did it in 10 minutes and 50 seconds. So about not even a full minute longer, I guess. What's a minute and a half longer compared to of deaths?
Of caution.
Of caution, yeah. And there's 100% run by C. Scotty W. This person loves Metroid, Ducey, especially up to, I think, at least Super Metroid. They have records. So C. Scotty W. beat 100% in 35 minutes and 15 seconds. So to encapsulate what is involved at 100%, you need to get all 21 missile tanks. There's 8 energy tanks you need to collect. The Morph Ball, both Ice Beams, that's both of them to get 100% for this category. The bombs, the Morph Ball bombs, I should say. The Barrier Suit, Wave Beam, Screw Attack, High Jump, and of course the Long Beam. And there's 100% Deathless, also by C. Scotty W. in 40 minutes, 40 seconds. So another 5 minutes, he got through 100%.
With being a little more cautious.
With being a little bit more cautious. Impressive runs, no matter how you slice it. It's with the difficulty of this game, like to beat it in 40 minutes, 100% is pretty crazy. So I think with that, Juicy, we'll go into our 2004 release and a remake of Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance. What memories do you have of this one? Since we were adults at this point, we were
out of high school,
and everything. Yeah, getting our own money to buy games and stuff.
I just remember it might have been a day one purchase, or it was pretty close to when it first came out.
I want to say you had to have almost pre-order something because I borrowed it from you. I wish I'd bought it because it's expensive now.
And I just knew I had to have it right away because it was Metroid for Nintendo was one of the few games I didn't replay a whole heck of a lot. But I always liked the story, and I liked how it tied in with the rest of the series. So when I heard this one was coming out, and it was adding some stuff, and it was really kind of making it more like Super Metroid, I thought, this is perfect. Like, this is how a remake should be for an old, original Nintendo game, where it's keeping the same story, but now it's actually telling you that story without needing the instruction book.
Yeah, it's, exactly. It's 17 years later after the original release. So, a lot has happened in gaming in 17 years. And it's also, to have a portable Metroid experience was pretty awesome. I mean, Metroid 2 is great on its own in 91.
Yeah.
But this one definitely, you could definitely tell there's a big difference, and there's an evolution of the Metroid formula on here. So this was also developed by R&D 1. So
wow.
they've also, I think they've gone up to, I forgot what Metroid game that they stopped at, but they've had their hand in basically the entire series all the way through. And this was directed by Yoshio Sakamoto, who he is also a Nintendo veteran, and he was involved with every game up until Zero Mission except Metroid 2. He was the only person to work on Zero, or excuse me, he was the only original Metroid developer to work on Zero Mission. So he already knew what he was coming in with, right? Because he'd worked on Metroid 1, so he knew everything, that game probably end to end. And he's trying to find how they can evolve this game forward to make it different enough, but also, keep the spirit of the original game, which overall very successful.
It definitely included a lot of the quality of life improvements that the other games have introduced, like shooting diagonally or crouch shooting, or there's even the little grip onto a ledge that Metroid Fusion had. It was just an item that you had to get in this one. Even it's funny though, they wanted to keep it a little bit like the original, so you still have to get a long beam.
Yeah. I think it's cool though because it does keep it, especially if you played it back then. And that's the whole thing is with this game, it's a remake, but it's also introducing probably a whole new audience to Metroid in general. And that's really what the impetus behind this was, is that Sakamoto wanted to introduce Metroid to a whole new generation of people because he understood even in 2004 that the NES one is pretty hard to get into. Like, as good as Super Metroid is and Metroid Fusion was, which came out a couple years before this, Metroid 1 hadn't been done since. Like, it had a story that he felt like it had to be retold. And that's why they kept the story very similar, and they added a whole bunch of cutscenes, which look incredible. Like, I love the sprite work in this game. It's a gorgeous game.
Yeah. They even added some things because in the story, they talk about these space pirates and that Mother Brain is leading them. But you never see a space pirate until Super Metroid.
Yeah.
And then they had to go back and bring them into this world. And then there's that whole extra bit where you think you've beaten Mother Brain, like from the original game, and Samus is getting away, and then she's not. She's shot back down to the planet, and you have to escape with her no suit.
Yeah, this was the origins of Zero Suit Samus, who would eventually be a playable character in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big way to differentiate from the original game is, you escape and you think the game's over. It's like, no, not quite. Like you said, you end up crash landing back on the planet, and her suit's destroyed in the midst of all that. So now you're defenseless. You're playing as Samus without a suit. She has no ability. She has like a little phaser kind of weapon.
That's like a stun gun.
It's like a stun gun. And then she ends up having to do, she finds Chozodia, I believe it's called, right? I think that's how it's pronounced, Chozodia.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, that's how it is. It sounds weird. It's the Chozo, but this is Chozodia. So Chozodia has a trial where if she completes it, she can get a new suit. And that's basically what is the middle section of this endpoint, or the end game, is you gain your suit back so you can eventually face the final boss on here.
Yeah, so basically the Chozo are these bird-like warriors who they adopted her when she was like orphaned because I think space pirates took out her family or her colony that she was in. And then they come to find out that like she was always meant for this suit. Like they had always made these weapons and items for her because they knew that she would be a great Chozo warrior, but not like them.
Yeah.
She had to go out and do her own thing.
Yeah, and this, of course, connects to the whole other bit of the story with the Chozo where, like the X-Parasite takes over their planets, and then they sort of make these Metroids that, kill the parasites.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Metroids get out of hand, and that's sort of the end of the Chozo civilization, which leads to the basically Metroid and everything else that comes after it because the Metroids are now rampant on there. And in Metroid 2, you have to exterminate them. So it's great. Like this reboot or this remake was a great way to retell that story and also flesh out even more because there's also more backstory with Samus. And I think that I think it's really successful with what it does just because of that on its own. Like it adds more to the story that you wouldn't have gotten beforehand because up until this point, like I don't even know if they would have expected Metroid to continue, right? It could have been a one-off game for all they knew, and it became successful to have a series.
Yeah, that's why Metroid 2 is on Game Boy, because they didn't fully trust it to be on Nintendo or even Super Nintendo at the time. They were like, well, this is kind of a property that people liked. Here, let's just throw it on the Game Boy. And then they knocked that out of the park, we'll learn. But this was a nice way. I always say now that Zero Mission is my canon for the whole story. This fits in with the rest of the series.
I'd say that's fair. I think Nintendo probably has it or sees it that way as well because it is, to me, it is like the new first start of the series. Like if you're gonna get into Metroid, you'll play Metroid on Nintendo, but you should play Zero Mission. Like I cannot overstate how awesome this game is. It's one of the best Game Boy Advance games with Fusion. It uses the same engine, of course. Like it was built on this Fusion engine, but it came out a couple years after, and you could see, like you said, with the ledge grabbing. There's a lot of elements that look like Fusion, but they did a lot to again keep it faithful to the original game.
I will say though, it is not one of the more difficult ones in the entire series.
Oh, absolutely not. It's really easy.
Yeah, which is fine. It gets you in, like you said, it gets you into the story. Like Fusion had its moments where you just get plain stuck in, and I know I beat this. I'd already had Fusion for like 3 extra years.
Yeah.
But I beat this before I ever beat Fusion.
Yeah, and this one also guides you too. Like, it actually shows you where your next objective is. Like, it may not show you the map it's in, but it shows you the direction you should be going. So you should be making your way that way.
I liked that. Like, Fusion introduced that, and people didn't really like it. They felt it was like too linear.
Yeah.
But this one did it a little better, where they don't show you specifically on the map. They're like, here's a general area. Maybe you should find doors that go that way.
If you go that direction, you're bound to find some way to get there.
Yeah.
You're not, at least it leads you that you're on the right track, not just on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah.
Just confused and like, I don't know where I'm going.
Specifically, go here.
Yeah. So this was released in February 2004. So some of the games that were released around this time, like this was, again, like prime for us, because this is when we had disposable income from working and whatnot. We were able to buy some of these games. So around January 2004 to March 2004, we had Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, which was that Diablo ARPG for PS2 and Xbox.
Wow, I didn't know it was then.
Yeah, like, and I rented that at the video store. Like, at the video store I worked at Hollywood Video. So it's weird that that was also 2004, because I don't have a time frame in my mind for that either.
Yeah.
There's also Maximo versus Army of Zim, which is a sequel to Maximo: Ghosts of Glory, one of my favorite PS2 games. There's Final Fantasy: Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube. That was that co-op Final Fantasy that.
Didn't it need the Game Boy Advance too?
Yeah, you needed to use the Game Boy link cables and all that. I didn't like it. I think there's a dedicated fan base for this, and then
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty popular in the community, but you just needed so much stuff to play.
You needed so much stuff, and then they released, not re-released, but they did like a remaster of some sort. I don't know if it's a remake. That was received pretty poorly for a lot of design changes that weren't great. So that's unfortunate. There's Nightshade, which I don't think many people know about this game, but I love it. It was a sequel to Shinobi, that really difficult Sega game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're a female ninja, and it's just as difficult, but I love it. It's a great game. And then the Game Boy Advance got the classic NES series of games that had like Donkey Kong, Ice Climber, Excite Bike, Zelda, Mario Brothers.
In the classic little gray card.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the box art looked like the old one, the old Nintendo boxes. A big one for me, maybe us. I don't know how you feel about this one. Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox.
So, yeah, this blew my mind.
I couldn't believe this was 2004 either.
I even texted you. I was like, how was that? I could have sworn it was in high school when we were playing that, and I was failing at the first boss.
I told you too, because like I knew it was around like when I started working, because I told you, like, it was one of my first paychecks. I went to Electronics Boutique and pre-ordered this.
Yeah,
but I didn't connect. I was like March 2004. I thought it was like later in 2004 or something. But it's crazy. It's a 20-year-old game now. I would love to cover that one and maybe some of the series too. Another big one, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes on GameCube. I know that can be divisive, but I love that game.
That's the big one for me here.
Yeah.
It was like, this was definitely a pre-order. I think I got it in a combo with the player's guide, like we talked about in Resident Evil.
Yeah,
how they would,
the discounted guide.
The discounted guide.
Yeah, there's also Far Cry. That was the first in that series on PC. I remember seeing that back then, and like,
I really liked that one when it came to Xbox.
Yeah, I liked that one on Xbox as well. I'm glad it did, because there was no way I could have a PC that could run that back then. It looked incredible. It was the first game where I was like, damn, like, I wish I had a PC just for that.
And I'm surprised they never went back to the type of game that was. Like, the Far Cries now are nothing like it was.
They're different. Like,
in the first one.
Yeah, the first game was very much like a survival kind of game. Like, you're just...
And it was very story-based, very linear.
Yeah.
But you got these awesome, like, primal attacks and everything, where you could, like, sense people by their smell, and then you could just, like, charge at them and claw them.
Yeah, it was really cool on the Xbox. I think those were added in the Xbox version, like those abilities. I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because the PC one I think was, it was a bigger version. Like, it was, the island was much bigger, and the Xbox one was like a scaled down version. But I loved it anyway. Yeah, it was really good. I loved it no matter what. There's also Sonic Heroes, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, Resident Evil Outbreak, and another big arena shooter, Unreal Tournament 2004. So that was a pretty solid quarter of 2004 there, January to March. There's a lot of good games already.
I loved Pandora Tomorrow too. That was the first Splinter Cell I ever beat.
Yeah. So in 2004, we're still in the magazine era of gaming, which is great. So I pulled some reviews here. There's GamePro in issue 186. March 2004 had Hitman Contracts on the cover, and they gave Metroid Zero Mission 5 for graphics, 4.5 for sound, 4.5 for control, and 5 for fun factor. They pointed out that calling Zero Mission a remake is true, but it kind of misses the point because of how it totally just reinvents the original game.
Yeah.
Very similar to what Prime did for GameCube, which I think is a pretty perfect analogy for that. Like, Prime isn't a remake necessarily, but it did change the Metroid formula in pretty drastic ways. Just with the first person shooting alone was a big difference. And then they also noted that while nostalgia doesn't make a great game, but knowing what to do with it does. And I think this is another great example of that, where they took the nostalgia of the original Metroid, modernized it, added to it, but it's still the original Metroid.
Yeah, it would have been weird to have like the maps be sort of 1-to-1 just with better graphics.
Yeah.
It's good that they went a different route but kept the same atmosphere.
Exactly. Like it feels familiar, but it's different.
Yeah.
Right. And also for them, they thought that this was one of the few GBA games that could constantly keep you surprised, which I think is also a fair point to make.
I was definitely surprised when I was like, I'm already beating the last boss. Never mind.
Wait a minute here. EGM reviewed this in issue 176, March 2004. They had Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow on the cover. This was their game of the month, which was not surprising. It got a 9.5 out of 10, a 9, a 9. The good was the visuals, gameplay, music, and unlockables. The bad was Samus's... This is really stupid. Samus's tacky under the helmet hairdo.
What?
Like what? Like they had nothing bad to say about it. So like, what stupid thing can we point out? Her hairdo? Like I don't what? The ponytail thing? I don't understand what that was. And they also know that NES vets should get ready for some surprises, just like GamePro said. Yeah, absolutely. And one review said that remake. Like GamePro, they said that remake doesn't seem like the right word to use because of how different the experience is, but they loved everything about it. They also thought that the game did really well with seamlessly weaving puzzles into the gameplay and what to do next without like explicitly telling you.
Yeah.
Like we say, it does tell you kind of where to go, but it doesn't exactly show you how to get there, which I think is part of the experience and how they kept the exploration of the game.
Yeah, it's more helpful than Super Nintendo or Super Metroid ever had, but not as very linear as Fusion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right in the middle.
And one of the again, like this is negatives in like the sort of kindest words because they really love this game no matter what.
Yeah.
They thought that it felt short, which I guess it kind of does. Yeah, but maybe because it's sort of a guided experience. But when you compare like the actual runtime of Metroid 1, the Nintendo version, that's estimated around 6 hours. This is around 4.5 to 5. So it's an hour is a pretty good drop, but I wouldn't say it feels significantly shorter. It just feels like a more, maybe because you're not dying as much, right? I think that's the other thing is Nintendo one, you die so much that it feels like a long game.
I was about to say, like, that one really, and with all the farming that you have to do to get your life back.
Yeah, like that's all the tedium and monotony that is gone from Zero Mission.
Yeah.
So if anything, that hour you lost is just you farming and just banging your head against the wall. What they've done, they've trimmed it and slimmed it to make it make sense and make it a much better experience to play.
You're not going to get lost, and that's where you lose a lot of time too. And then if you do die, you're not going to farm.
Yeah, if anything, this
trim
is
the fat.
This is just Metroid Nintendo streamlined. That's really what they're saying, right? Because that's where the length come from, is from farming and all the other crap you have to do. And then Nintendo Power reviewed this, as we would expect, I would hope, in issue 177, March 2004. They had Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles on the cover. This also had a 7-page guide that ran over a couple of issues. And then Nintendo Power, I forgot they had this in this era, but this is when they called the reviews Now Playing. And they had a 5-star scale with 5 different reviewers. I totally forgot this era of Nintendo Power.
I remember Now Playing, but it used to be something different in the earlier editions.
Well, it was like scores. So they had like 8.5, and then each reviewer would give like their own individual scores, which wouldn't necessarily factor into the overall score. But this was different where it's like they had 5 reviewers and they all had a scale of 5, which, again, I remember when I looked at it, but I totally forgot because I'm used to the old Nintendo Powers that we're always going through where it's like they have the scoring system or, they go like on play control, theme and fun, like those kind of metrics. So this is really different and simplified.
I also always liked the top 10s or top 15s that they would do for Nintendo, Super, and Game Boy.
Yeah,
that was fun, and those kind of went away when N64 came out.
Exactly, right. So it's it's weird when you look at how Nintendo Power evolved over the years because it's like we were part of each of those eras.
Yeah,
it's like you could tell that we were less part of this era, maybe, depending compared to earlier ones. And so with their 5-star scale and 5 reviewers, this got a 5, a 5, a 5, 4.5, 4.5, and it was a top-rated game of the month, which again makes perfect sense. Comparatively, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles got a 4.5, 4.5, a 5, 4.5, and a 5. Given that game, like when I played, like I don't think it was worth a 4.5 out of 5. Like I probably would have put it 3, 3.5. It wasn't that great.
maybe the gameplay was really fun because it was co-op Final Fantasy for
Yeah.
once. But it was just ridiculous how you had to get all this extra stuff just to play it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they loved it, but at the same time, this might have been one of the first instances Final Fantasy came back to Nintendo, right?
Oh yeah.
So it might have been
makes
that
sense.
thing where it's like we're not going to talk bad about this game because it's the only Final Fantasy we've had since Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 3 for us,
on
right? Yeah.
on
So
SNES.
it'd been a while since they got a Final Fantasy game, so it was interesting that they rated it so highly for being such a mediocre game. And so for the Zero Mission review, getting back to that, Nintendo Power loved the variety of gameplay and Zero Suit Samus. They loved the unlockables and loved all the new abilities like the power grip that we talked about where you could hold on the ledges. And they thought it perfectly incorporated the original Metroid elements with new innovative ideas.
I'm surprised that they liked the ability like the power grip being a thing you had to find when like in Fusion it just came naturally.
Yeah, but I guess in this way it makes sense narratively because it's before Fusion, so it makes sense that maybe she has to get it now, and like, you have to.
And then she keeps it later.
Yeah, even though in every Metroid you lose your abilities anyway at the beginning. I guess whatever suit she has in Fusion is just it's already pre-made with the ledge.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
Grip.
Oh, jeez. So this game, Deucey, what are your memories of playing it? Because I mean, there's a lot that's the same. They've added a few bosses. The boss order is obviously different, and of course, there's a whole area that we talked about with Zero Suit Samus, like that's after the main game. And then there are a few unlockables again, depending on like if you beat the game at a certain time. And she was just like, I think there's a couple endings, and there's some like
there's like little screenshots.
Like
once
little
again,
story
it's like,
screens.
Does she stay in the suit or does she get out of it?
Yeah.
Even though you've already seen Zero Suit.
Exactly. Yeah. So what did you like? I know you played through it when you got it, but I mean, what was your sort of impressions and did it pay off? Which I know the answer is yes.
Yes.
But,
I mean, I was blown away right when I fired it up, and the intro song was kind of the same as the original, but different, like modern remix.
Yeah.
And I do remember sort of blasting through it though. Like probably within the first few days, all of a sudden I was at Mother Brain and I'm like, uh-oh. Like I bought this day one and now I'm already beating it. Like at least Metroid Fusion got me stuck and I was still trying to go through it, but this is quick. Oh, never mind. There's this new cutscene and I don't even know how much longer this is going to last. I think though the Zero Suit part, I don't know, it didn't wear out its welcome, but there were some parts. That was finally the first part where I was like, okay, this is a little unnecessary.
Yeah, because you're going through a lot of events, and you also have to play, a little stealthily because you can't really engage. Yeah, so it's like again, it's. For me, I question if they could have put this like somewhere else in the game, like midway through the game, to kind of break things up, because it seems weird. Like you end with Mother Brain, and you're right, you go into like Zero Suit Samus, which I like the story, build up to that, where it's like she crash lands back and her suit's destroyed. But it's almost like a weird thing to add as like a coda to a game, right? Where
yeah.
It's like you beat Mother Brain, now you come back, now you're powerless.
Yeah.
Like there's one game that did that irritated the hell out of me, which I've told you about, which is Tunic on Xbox.
Oh yeah.
It's on PS5 now and Switch. It's an amazing game, but it does that too, where it's like you get to the last boss and you sort of beat it, but then that boss takes all your powers away, and then granted that game takes it to the next level by forcing you to go collect your powers again. But it's weird in Metroid Zero Mission, it's you crash land and now you're back to you're more defenseless than when you started the game.
Mm-hmm. I almost forgot that throughout the main mission, you're collecting items like you would and power-ups like you would in any of the other Metroids. But there are some that are written in the Chozo language. And even back then I was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I finally get this? And then I got to Mother Brain and I'm like, I still don't know about those one items. Like what is going on? But I did like that once you get the second suit, which is basically the suit throughout the whole series, and that unlocks the ability to do these other super moves that you don't really see until Super Metroid.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this makes so much sense, and once again, it really slots this game in with the rest of the series.
It does, and it's perfect. And then the final boss is Mecha Ridley.
Yeah.
Which also was really cool looking in general, because it's a mechanized Ridley, which you also do see in Prime, I believe. Or he's like a different version
in Prime,
of Ridley.
he's sort of like a cyborg. It's
Yeah.
it's him with robotic parts.
Yes.
And I think this is supposed to lead to that because Prime takes place after 1.
It does.
So this is like, hey, we built a Metal Ridley in case the other one died, but let's just combine them.
Yeah. And, for me, I do remember borrowing this from you, and I loved it. I wish I could ask myself back then why I didn't buy this.
Yeah.
Because I love Fusion. I played I think that was the thing, that I probably played Fusion and borrowed it. I was like, well, I'll just borrow it from Ducey. It's fine, because I wasn't buying a ton of games then, especially I was playing a lot of Xbox and PS2. But, I borrowed from you, and I know I loved it. I was also surprised at how short it did feel. And I think that's also, maybe that's wise, because that guide marker does show you where to go. So that kind of keeps you on pace in a way where it's like you're not urged to go there, but you also know like you're heading in the right direction. Whereas in the other Metroid games, you're usually aimlessly backtracking for a little bit. You don't know where to go immediately. So that leads to, the game feeling a little bit longer, and it's also just kind of monotonous by nature. But I think that's, for me, I don't think there's a way to take off the guide marker, but I actually think I would have preferred without it, just to give that, a bigger sense of exploration that the other games had, where it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks to get lost, but at the same time, I'm learning the levels and I feel like I'm actually exploring as Samus,
I think they kind of take it away in the second part of the game because you don't have your suit.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
That's it's also more linear than the rest of the game because you're constantly just on the run.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not exploring to, get into areas you haven't explored before. It's like you're just trying to get to a point so you can survive and get your suit back.
Yeah.
It's pretty direct, but they do try to mask. Like I remember there's certain areas just like you might have a split fork or something. Like there is some play to it, so it's not like total A to B, but it doesn't do a whole lot to not make it feel like A to B.
Yeah.
At the end, you're still getting your suit to fight Mecha Ridley.
And I feel like even with your approach to most Metroid games, this one doesn't allow you to go in underpowered. And
it's like, no.
You are definitely getting enough energy tanks for this.
Yeah, apparently I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
I did read up. You can beat the game with as low as 9% items. I don't know what I beat it with. I guess we have to check your card if it's still on there.
Oh yeah.
Just to see, because I don't remember how far or how many items I got. I just know I beat it, and I know it was significantly easier than Fusion. I do remember that for sure. And then also, so some of the items they did add in here that weren't in the main game. There was the power grip that we talked about, the gravity suit. You have a charge beam, which was not even a thought in Metroid 1. Or 2. Yeah. The plasma beam, the speed booster. You get things like the space jump, the super missiles, power bombs. They added a few mini bosses and a couple areas like Criteria, Chizodia, and the pirate mothership. And then also the ice and wave beam stacks, as we talked about in the first game. That doesn't happen. You get either one.
Oh, really.
Yeah. So in this game, again, they modernized it. Like they basically took what worked in Fusion, Super Metroid, and probably a little bit of 2, and made it into a brand new game while still being the first game in the series.
I think when I first played it, I did love how they added the areas like Criteria, which is most well known in Super Metroid, and then this pirate mothership that you're running through suitless is technically, it doesn't look like it, but it's technically the wrecked ship in Super Metroid.
Yeah. So again, that's them sort of connecting the games subtly, not overtly. Like you could pick that stuff out, especially if you played the games before. But if you've never played Metroid, this is all new. And then if you do play the other Metroid games, you'll soon discover that it's all connected now, especially with this remake.
Yep.
So there are a few things you can unlock. You can unlock a hard mode, which I don't remember doing that back then. But I guess I did. I just didn't play through because I'm curious how I would feel about that, because everything is a lot harder. You get twice the damage. There's more enemy swarms, and additionally your upgrades are less effective, which I was shocked to read.
Ooh.
Your E tanks only give you 50 health, like they add 50 health, and the missile tanks only add 2, and your super missile and power bombs only add 1. And there's also some save stations that are just blocked. This sounds fun to me. After playing through Dread and Hard, I kind of want to check this out.
Well, with the E-Tanks doing less, you've already played a game
like
that.
I might have played normal with hard mode tanks technically anyway. I don't know. I have to go back and check that out. And then there's a time attack you can unlock with a code, which I thought was really cool. If you highlight the start game of a file that's finished on normal, which basically is like New Game Plus, you hit up, left, right, down, and you get time attack mode, which I'm sure speedrunners were loving back then.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess we're getting to speed runs, and then we'll actually, I'll get into this. If you do want to buy this, I should say what sucks about Zero Mission is that There's no real easy way to play it right now. Like, it's available on the Wii U eShop, which I'm not sure is even still around.
No,
I know they're closed. Did it cease already?
I thought that shut down last March.
I can't remember because it's one of those things where Nintendo says we're shutting it down, then they extend it, and then, I don't know. It might be shut down already. You might be right. I totally forget where that's at. So if that's the case, you can't play it anyway.
Yeah.
There's rumors that it's coming to Switch Online, which I hope it does because Fusion's already on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and data miners did find that there's some screenshots for Zero Mission, which will lead people to believe that it's coming. It's surprising it hasn't come yet, but I also think it might be something where Nintendo's waiting for whenever they can get more concrete information on the release for Metroid Prime 4.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like that's what they're doing is they're banking that, saying like, well, Prime 4, which has to come in on Switch 2 at this point. I don't think it's coming to Switch 1. There's no way. Here's Metroid Zero Mission to get started on the series.
I thought I saw somewhere that somebody said it was guaranteed this year, and I thought that's insane because they haven't even shown us anything.
They've shown nothing.
Yeah.
And also, the rumor originally was that the Switch 2, whatever it's going to be called, is coming out later this year, and now that rumor's been changed that Nintendo's delayed it to 2025. So it sucks. Like, Metroid Prime 4 has been announced like 5-6 years ago, and they've really shown like a screenshot and like a title treatment. But it sucks. Like, you can't play anymore. So I think Zero Mission is being saved for some sort of Metroid announcement.
Well, it's the 20th anniversary. You might as well bring it out
this
year.
They have to, yeah. Super Metroid with the 30th anniversary. Like, how perfect would it be if April they tell us, like, yeah, Zero Mission is available on Switch Online.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could buy a cartridge, which is $65 on Game Boy Advance. It's pretty expensive for a Game Boy Advance game. Pretty expensive for just a cartridge, really.
Yeah.
And then if you want a complete box copy, which is what I would like, but probably won't get, it's at least $190.
Man, I wish I kept my box.
Yeah, exactly. We all wish we kept our boxes. So, there's options to play it. I have it on my Steam Deck because it makes the most sense to, have it that way since I don't own a copy, unfortunately. I need to get one. But, there's no real way you can play it except for on original hardware or you go the emulation route. For speedruns, Deucey, we have a couple categories I took down here. There's any percent normal. These are on normal difficulty. This is held by C. Scotty W., who had the Metroid records I told you about.
Oh, yeah.
A few others. He finished this game in 36 minutes and 52 seconds. On hard mode, there's Bench Juice. They did it in 40 minutes and 50 seconds with C. Scotty W. not far behind. He's 41 minutes and 25 seconds.
C. Scotty W. must be like, God, this took me 4 times as long.
Yeah.
What is with this new game?
He's like, this is unbelievable. This is awful. I'm sure he loves it, though. I'm sure he loves it to death. There's 100% normal, which is 100% items. That's also C. Scotty W. with 1 hour, 5 minutes, 51 seconds. He also holds the record for 100% hard with 1 hour, 10 minutes, 18 seconds. And then 9% normal, which is the lowest items you could get. That's by Bench Juice. Again, 47 minutes, 53 seconds. And then also in second is C. Scotty W. 48 minutes, 9 seconds. And then hard, 9%. There's Bench Juice with 1 hour, 3 minutes, 18 seconds. And then again, C. Scotty W. 1 hour, 4 minutes, 51 seconds.
I wonder what the difference is. Like, why is there about 11 minutes difference between any percent and 9% when you'd think any percent you would try to be getting the least amount of stuff to just run through?
Well, I would guess with like any percent, you're sequence breaking a lot more because you don't have to get 9% of items, right? Because I don't know what 9% gets, right? Because I'd imagine with 9%, there's some optimal route where they're getting those specific items to get 9%.
But they say 9% you need, right, to finish it. So that means any percent has to at least be 9.
Well, unless there's skips, I don't know. I don't know how little they get by on any percent, right? So it could be one of those things because there is a 20-minute difference for a good reason. I'm sure that's a long time in speedrun terms. Yeah. So I guess we'll wrap up with final thoughts, Deucey. How do you feel in general about we've talked a lot about Metroid 1 on Nintendo and Metroid Zero Mission. I have a preference, which I think is obvious.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on Metroid and Zero Mission?
Probably the same preference.
I would think so.
Zero Mission is the new way to go.
Yeah.
But Metroid on Nintendo is a great museum piece.
It is.
You could say, like, it's definitely one you should try, but you don't have to beat it. Like, they have Zero Mission out. But it is very sad that you can't play it anywhere unless you already have the copy or you track down an expensive one. Like, they really need to bring it out to the Switch Online app. I agree, and that I have the same sentiment. Really, it's Metroid 1 it should absolutely be played for its place in gaming history, especially for 1987 being a Metroid game, which we talked about. Like, there's no genre known as like a Metroid game. It was kind of fun under the adventure genre. Oh yeah,
but eventually people realize like no, this is its own genre where it's not a linear path. It's you get stuck, you get an item, you go back. It's like it's a lot of backtracking and whatnot, but it's a
feels-
genre I love.
It feels like now adventure is kind of morphing into just nothing but Metroidvanias.
Yeah.
Like even if you think about Tomb Raider, the more recent ones, the recent trilogy, it's a lot of backtracking because you got a new item and that unlocks a new area.
Like you got a bow or something, or you got like something that'll pull structures down. Like, it's very much. And I would say like like I said in Best of 2023, Star Wars Jedi Survivor to me is a Metroidvania.
Oh, for sure. Even the Fallen one, the first one was pretty much like it.
Yeah, and Survivor just ramps that up even further to where it feels like a Metroidvania in the best sense of the word.
Even the maps look like the Metroid Prime 3D maps.
They do. Yeah. So, it's an influential genre. So again, I would say definitely playing Metroid 1, you'll probably get tired of it pretty quickly, which is absolutely fair. It's a really difficult game to get into.
The music while you're playing in that first few rooms will get stuck in your head.
Yeah, it definitely has the tunes that'll stick in your head. I just think it's a hard game to get into no matter how you slice it these days.
For sure.
Because even if you were able to restart with full health, that would negate a lot of the issues with this game. But 1987, they didn't think about that. They just figured, let's make it difficult. Let's give you the sense of isolation and atmosphere.
What's amazing now is, Super Metroid has been a great game for randomizers. And then they combined it with Link to the Past, which is also a great game for randomizers. Recently, I saw an alpha being played. They're still trying to work out the kinks. That is now including the original Metroid and the original Zelda with those other two. So all 4 games in one.
That's insanity.
Yeah,
it
looks
too much.
It looks so fun, but also like my brain would melt.
Yeah, like that's like brain-breakingly bad. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah. So yes, and then Zero Mission, seek it out.
Yes.
No matter what you're doing, I would say, if you're familiar with emulators, just go that route until Nintendo releases it, or just wait until they do, because I think they're inevitably going to have to put Zero Mission on there. I think that's the necessary canonical way to kick off Prime 4.
Yeah,
is to get you familiar with pretty much any of the game in the series, because at that point, with the exception of like Samus Returns and some of the the other games, the smaller games like Other Ram, you'll play most of them on the Switch. I suspect that they'll release Prime 2 and 3 at some point, and they have to put Zero Mission on there because it's a really special game. It looks amazing, it plays amazing, it's short but sweet, and it does everything the first game did, but infinitely better. It's a modernized experience that you all should play. So I think that'll do it for this episode, Deucey. If anyone out there who's listening wants to let us know their favorite Metroid memories, or just say hello, you can email us at legiongamingpod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcast. And for fun, I guess we'll talk about some of the next episodes we have, because after this, we're going to do a combo of Metroid 2 on Game Boy and combine that with Metroid Samus Returns. The week after that, we're looking to do a WrestleMania episode that's going to cover like the WrestleMania games from like Nintendo up until, I guess, Legends of WrestleMania, which will be like 2015-ish, somewhere around there. Just do a fun little WrestleMania episode.
We could even give a shout out to the newest release.
We could
2K24.
24.
Yep.
Yeah, have a little bit of that in there.
I was going to talk about 2K14 even a little.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a big one too.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And then after that, we're going to do Super Metroid, and then another special episode with Vito, because he's going to be on for both of these. Super Mario Land 2, which is going to be a really awesome game to cover.
That'll be fun.
I love that game so much.
Recently saw that Splash Wave about it. And,
yeah.
oh my God. All the memories
I
came
love
flooding
that game.
back.
That is like one of my favorite Game Boy games. I even owned a Game Boy for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite games to borrow from you and Vito. Like, I played the hell out of that game for not owning it. So that'll be a fun one to cover with Super Metroid 3, or Super Metroid, which is Super Metroid 3.
Yeah. True.
Technically. So we have a lot of fun coming up in the next few weeks. So we look forward to recording those, and hopefully you'll be able to listen and give us some feedback on there. Deucey, any final words before we leave our friends off to go explore Metroid and everything Zebus or Zebus?
Just press start to continue on to all those great ones we mentioned.
Thanks, everybody.